I'm short on time, so this one's going to be a quickie. Several years ago, a cherry tree came down during a windstorm in my friend's yard, so we hauled as much of it as we could over to my shop. I just couldn't turn down free wood. Well, it was sort of free. When I unloaded the biggest piece, I thought it would just flip out of my truck end over end. So it didn't quite make it, and one end came back and hit the back edge of my tailgate. Put a nice little crease in it. Oh well, you live and learn, I guess. So I've been turning bowls out of it on the lathe, but got kind of bored with that, so I decided to make this chunk into a live edge clock. To do this, I first ripped the log diagonally on the bandsaw. Having this much of the blade exposed felt a little sketchy, so I just took my time as I went through it. To try to get as much of a parallel cut as I could on the other side, I jointed one end before resawing it back at the bandsaw. Then I just cleaned up both sides on the joiner. I spent some time forcibly removing the bark and then cleaned up the last little bits and pieces with a wire wheel. I started sanding it up thinking, dang, this was a real quick project. Everything seemed to be going real well. But then the next day it cupped pretty good, and I didn't think it would hang on the wall very well. So I just chucked it under the workbench where I had left it for the last couple of years until I found it while I was cleaning. Now that it was pretty well completely dried out, I decided it was time to continue on with this project and flatten it out on the joiner. Once it was pretty flat, I drilled a hole for the clock mechanism to go through. Since this thing is not exactly round, I just made an artistic decision of where it should be. I used the hole to line up the clock part and mark its position. I put down some blue tape and glued the routing template to it. With a pattern bit in the router, I routed out the mortise for the clock mechanism. I removed the template, installed the hanger, and added my maker's mark. I then sprayed some shellac on it and set the piece aside to dry for a day. The final assembly was pretty straightforward. I double stick taped on a piece of cork so it would hang straight on the wall. Popped in the clock and secured it in place with a decorative brass nut. The hour hand is a friction fit, and the minute hand is held in place with a knurled brass nut. The second sweeping hand was a bit too long, so I trimmed it to a pleasing length and installed it. I popped the battery in and I was ready to go. I didn't bother setting the time since I've been in isolation in the shop. The actual time doesn't really matter. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay home, and create something if you have the time. And if you don't want to make something but you got the time, please watch another video.